Hey everybody, it's Mark from 12 Tomatoes, and today I'm going to show you how to make authentic Tex-Mex style restaurant enchiladas, the whole plate from scratch. We got Mexican rice, refried beans, enchilada sauce, the beef, the enchiladas themselves, covered in cheese. It's going to be delicious. If you're anything like me, you love getting beef enchiladas at your favorite Mexican restaurant. So I set out to recreate that amazing dish, and the results are fantastic. I think you're going to like it a lot. And here we go. We're going to start with the Mexican rice. Alright, we're going to start out by heating our skillet to medium-high heat and adding just some vegetable oil or canola oil. When your oil is nice and hot, you're going to add the rice, and you're going to stir that constantly until that rice is a nice golden brown color. You don't want it to burn, but you want it to get nice and toasted. Oh, some of mine on the bottom there are starting to get a little bit charred, and definitely don't want that. When they're at the golden brown level that you desire, you're going to pour in 2.5 cups of warm water. Eight ounces of tomato sauce. Got some chili powder. Garlic. About 2 cloves, more if you want it garlicky. And then we have tomato bouillon. This isn't an ingredient that I was very familiar with before, but got some, and it looks like this. It's very flavorful and tasty. It smells like tomato soup. I'm gonna mix that all together, bring this to a boil. You wanna season it with salt to taste. Now we got it almost coming to a boil here. Now I'm gonna turn the heat down. There we go, that's about the simmer that I want. So I'm gonna cover it and let it do its thing for about 20 minutes. Ooh, looking good. Let's fluff it up with a fork. Yeah, that's exactly what we want. Look at that nice deep red color, beautiful. Now, I'm gonna show you how to make refried beans. Now this is one of the easier ways to make refried beans. Obviously not as easy as buying a can of refried beans. We're going to use canned whole pinto beans. The legit way to make refried beans takes a very long time, so we're gonna simplify it a little bit, but hopefully elevate it above the can of refried beans that you might buy at the store. We're gonna start by heating the skillet at medium heat, and you can use lard or canola oil. I'm gonna use lard. This is not an ingredient that I use very often. I think that it'll add more of a rich flavor, and I think it's, from what I understand, more of an authentic way to go about it. Now that our lard is melted and heated, I'm gonna add 2 cloves of garlic, and we're gonna heat those until they're browned on both sides. Let's check on them. There we go, there's some nice browning. There's that nice color that we're going for. We wanna make sure they're soft enough to smash with a fork in a minute. Oh, we got some burning. Might have gone a little far with these. All right, now I'm going to smash them. Now I'm going to pour in my pinto beans. Now, I did not drain the pinto beans. Some methods call for draining them and adding water. I thought I'd experiment with just utilizing the liquid within the cans already. I think that would be better flavor, but we're gonna see. Now we're going to add chili powder, cumin, oregano. Now, I saw in my pantry, I had Mexican oregano. I don't know the difference personally, maybe you guys can tell me in the comments, but I thought, hey, I'm making a Tex-Mex dish, maybe I should try using the Mexican oregano. And then we're gonna do some salt. And mix those all together. Make sure the beans are nice and heated through before we mash them. I'm afraid I burned the garlic a little bit, just having my back turned. But it happens, huh? That lard certainly splattered everywhere when I poured in the beans. I mean, I should have assumed that would happen. That's a lot of liquid suddenly going into oil. But we're learning together. All right, I think I'm ready to mash the beans. And you just do this until you reach your desired consistency. So for me, that's pretty smooth. So I'm gonna be doing this for a little bit. My refried beans are far too liquidy. My not draining the beans gamble did not work how I wanted. So I'm gonna end up simmering off some of that water. Some of that liquid is definitely starting to come off, but I think I'm going to make a cornstarch slurry to thicken that up. For those who don't know, a slurry is usually around equal parts water and cornstarch. So I have a tablespoon of water, a tablespoon of cornstarch. I'm gonna mix those together. This will blend a lot better. And then just pour that in. Hopefully this will solve my issue. That's getting better, but it's still too liquidy. I'm sure many of you at home are going, that looks like soup, my bad. Messed that up a little bit. Lesson learned at home, you might wanna drain the beans. Or at least drain one of them. If you drain both cans of beans, you're gonna wanna introduce some water, maybe half cup. All right, I got the beans to what's my desired consistency, but it might be different than for you. You might like it a little less runny than I do. And that's just fine. But yeah, those beans should be good to go. Now we are going to make what is, in my opinion, the star of the whole dish, and that is the enchilada sauce. For the enchilada sauce, first we're going to heat up several tablespoons of olive oil on medium heat. Now when your oil is nice and hot, you're going to add all of your seasonings. First we start with flour, garlic powder, cumin, chili powder, and salt. We're gonna whisk that around until it's nice and fragrant and deepened in color. That's smelling really good. Very fragrant. You wanna whisk constantly so you don't burn any of this. I think it's ready now for the next steps. We just add 2 cups of chicken broth and 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And you wanna whisk that so there's no lumps. When it's nice and smooth, we're gonna raise it to medium-high heat and bring it to a nice simmer. And we're gonna simmer this for about 5 to 7 minutes. Look at that nice, deep, rich color. This smells amazing. You want to whisk often during the simmering process. All right, it's been about 5 minutes, maybe 7. I'm going to test the thickness of this. It'll thicken up more as it cools as well. You're gonna set this aside until you're actually ready to assemble your enchiladas. I'm gonna turn off the heat, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of apple cider vinegar. That's gonna bring a tanginess. Now that it's off the heat, I'm gonna season it to taste with some salt and pepper. And like I said, this will thicken up as it cools. And there's your enchilada sauce. One of the last steps of our enchilada process is the beef. So I'm going to heat the skillet to medium. Got about a pound of beef here. I personally like to use 20% fat, so 80-20. Some people like it more lean at 90 or 92, it's up to you. I find the fattier beefs to be more flavorful. If you use a higher fat content beef like I do, you're definitely gonna wanna drain this before you add all our spices and seasonings. It looks like our ground beef is browned, so I'm just gonna drain it real quick. Now we're gonna add our seasonings. We got chili powder. You guys notice a theme? Lots of chili powder today, as well as cumin, onion powder, garlic powder, and this is smoked paprika. It's smelling amazing, you guys. Let me season that with a little bit of salt as well. Now I'm gonna put just about a half cup of our enchilada sauce in this. The enchilada sauce has thickened up quite a bit as it's been sitting. That seems good to me, and our ground beef is done. Now I'm just shredding my cheese for the enchiladas. Cheese is definitely an important part of them. You can use any kind of cheese you want. I like to use cheddar and Monterey Jack. One thing I recommend is shredding your own cheese. Instead of buying the pre-shredded cheese at the stores, if you shred it yourself, it melts a lot better because those pre-shredded cheeses are actually covered in potato starch and other starches so that they won't stick together in the bag. However, that means that they don't quite get as melty. They still melt. It's a little more of a pain to shred your own, but I think it's worth it. Now it's time for the fun part, assembling the enchiladas. First, you want to spread a thin layer of enchilada sauce on the bottom of your baking dish. You can use any tortillas you want, but I recommend corn tortillas, and especially these ones from Guerrero. You want to heat them up beforehand, whether you fry them for a minute in a pan or you can microwave them. The reason being, they won't crack that way when you roll them tightly. The reason I recommend corn tortillas over flour, it's a personal preference, but flour tortillas, when they're covered in the enchilada sauce and they bake and everything, they tend to come out soggy and slimy, in my opinion. Some people like flour better. The traditional way to serve enchiladas is corn, so I highly recommend white corn tortillas from Guerrero. I've taken the easy way out and I just heated them in the microwave. I assume that this is going to use about 8 tortillas or so. Just heated them in a stack for about 30 seconds to a minute. That way they're more pliable. You can already tell they're not going to break. Assembly is pretty easy. Just a couple spoonfuls of your meat and then place them seam down. Alright, I think 8 was the perfect amount for this size baking dish. Now we're going to cover all the enchiladas with our enchilada sauce. See how much that's thickened up? Can't waste a drop, this stuff is delicious. Now we're just going to top with our cheese. Can you ever have enough cheese? At first when I was shredding, I was thinking, I think I might have gone a bit overboard. But is that even possible with cheese? Here we got our cheddar and our Monterey Jack. All we have left is to bake. You're gonna bake this at 350 degrees for about 25 minutes until everything is nice and melty. All right guys, the oven timer just went off and check out these enchiladas. Look at that. I'm gonna go ahead and make a full Tex-Mex restaurant style enchilada plate. Check out my Tex-Mex restaurant enchiladas plate. I am so hungry now. Does that not make you hungry? I'm just going to top the beans with a little tortilla because obviously there wasn't enough cheese. Now, check out my glamour shots I'm about to take of this right now, and then we're gonna come back and I'm gonna finally try it. All right, the moment of truth. It's time to try it. It's so good. It's so good. You guys have to make this. I promise you. If you do everything I did today, just how I did it, you will blow away your friends and family. Whoever you're cooking for will be very, very happy. I highly recommend you guys trying this authentic Tex-Mex restaurant style enchilada plate dish thing. I hope you guys had fun watching and tune in next time.
12 tomatoes.